One mom told me I didn't even know postpartum anxiety was a thing. I thought because I wasn't depressed, I was just uptight, but it was real and it lasts almost a year. And if you've ever felt this way, something was wrong, but you couldn't name it, this episode is for you. Because postpartum isn't just depression, and a lot of us were never warned about it. This is No Textbook for Life. I'm Leah, and this season we're talking honestly about postpartum, the parts no one prepares you for. So, I will say that before this episode, I asked online what was one thing that surprised you about postpartum and what is something you wish you could have told your spouse about postpartum. And I received some answers. They're going to stay anonymous, and I will include them in this podcast. So when I talk about answers from another mom, that is where those answers are coming from. So when we hear postpartum, most of us think of depression, crying, sadness, not wanting to get out of bed. But there's also postpartum anxiety, which typically anxiety and depression come together a lot of the time. When I was diagnosed with depression and anxiety when I was 14, they told me that depression was focusing on the past and anxiety was focusing on the future. And that's how you can differentiate the two. There's also a lot of rage I've noticed in postpartum, especially after my second born. After my first baby, I just had to take care of her. But after having two, I feel definitely outnumbered, and having to fulfill two needs now has been a little too overwhelming for my system. Not having much help during the day, also taking on a job that consists watching three more kids on top of that. So most of my day I have 5 kids with me, and I've noticed that I am definitely a lot more short-tempered and probably been yelling more than I should be. Numbness exists. I have felt this several times. One of the worst times that I felt it was actually when I started my antidepressants, and for a few weeks I felt absolutely nothing, and that was due to the medication. However, I have felt just complete numbness just in general. I believe it was my system, my body, basically shutting off so that I could just function in general. And speaking of functioning, it does not mean you're thriving. You see a mom, they're keeping the house clean, they're still cooking dinner, they're still taking care of their kids, they're still functioning. It does not mean that they are thriving. Usually they're just in a mode, and they're almost in a robotic way of motherhood, which I wonder sometimes, because I can function under tons of stress. If I'm angry, I'm usually cleaning, and that's just something that I do to take my mind off things, and I don't have to think about too much. But I'm sure that when the house is clean and dinner's made and the kids are taken care of, my husband and other people that see me probably think I'm just fine, when mentally and emotionally I'm usually drowning and having a much harder time than a lot of people think. And there's a lot of research to back all of this up. Around 1 in 5 moms experience a postpartum mood or anxiety disorder. So that's 20% of moms. And there's a lot of moms. Anxiety alone affects 10 to 15% of moms, and many don't realize it because they're holding it together, like I said. Being a mom, sometimes you just go into, like I was saying, a robotic mode. But mentally, emotionally, internally, things are not firing how they're supposed to be. So another mom said that the tiredness from depression is what made it hard to even understand space. Her brain couldn't process normally. And let's see, did I recognize any of my own symptoms in my first baby? No, because people tell you that's normal. And I feel like a lot of symptoms are ignored. After my second, probably it took about 5 months before I started opening up about my worries and feeling to my husband. And he definitely brushed them off as just postpartum normalness. I was extremely concerned about the amount of hair I was losing, and I ended up putting myself into therapy, and that wasn't helping. I was on antidepressants. I was trying to do whatever I could to feel better. Nothing was fixing that. I was going through a lot of suicidal ideation, which my therapist told me was just a way for my brain to escape wanting to do all the hard things every day. But my husband just couldn't grasp how deep and dark of a place I have gone to. What did I brush off as normal? The sadness, the crying, all the ups and downs in my mood. Just I'm used to the depression, but it was definitely some of the worst I've ever had after my second baby. And so it took, like I said, about 5 to 6 months before I realized something was wrong enough to start asking for help. And what sort of helped was getting my thyroid levels checked and getting put on medication for that, getting off my antidepressants. The fact that it started becoming summer, I need the sunshine, so that helped me a lot, getting out of the house and things like that. But seasonal depression is a huge thing, and so right now, being in the dead of winter, it's been a lot harder. But you don't have to feel sad to be struggling. There's so many other emotions and moods that can cause a lot of heartache and struggle for a lot of moms. There is a huge hormone crash that no one really explains. Estrogen and progesterone, they rise for 9 months. And then right after birth, they drop dramatically within days. I believe it's about 90% drop, which is one of the fastest hormone crashes that the body experiences. And this is why that's important, because those two hormones, they affect mood, anxiety, sleep, emotional regulation, and stress tolerance. All those things that you need to be a functional, happy mom is now 90% gone. So if you felt like a different person overnight, you were, and there's a reason, and that's the reason. So this is how moms can support their bodies going through that dramatic drop. First, protein and fat, healthy fats. And I can attest to this because protein is so important. When I was pregnant with Scotty, my second, I would eat about 80 to 120 grams of protein a day. And then after I had her, I definitely backed off of that diet because I wasn't pregnant anymore. I wasn't as concerned with my diet as I was when I was pregnant. And that drop in protein really must have taken a toll. So make sure your diet is good. It doesn't have to be crazy, but make sure you're getting in those proteins. Also hydrate. You need water and electrolytes. Sunlight was the biggest thing for me. That dead of winter, it is right now. It was after I had Scotty. It really took a toll on my body and my mental, emotional abilities. Gentle movement. I had an indoor walking pad that I used just to get some movement in, and I did that every day for half an hour. That's something I've been lacking now with it being so cold, and I don't have that same walking pad. It's actually my mom's. And then asking for help early, especially right in that first week. Rely on as many people as you can. Ask for help, take the help when it's offered. That's a big deal. This isn't about fixing postpartum. It's about supporting your body through it. You're not going to be able to fix it quickly. It takes a long time before things start regulating, getting back to normal. And a lot of moms don't feel normal until like 2 years postpartum. So There are a lot of ways that you can support your body to get through it as gracefully as you can. There's a important topic I really want to talk about, and this is that postpartum depression is often missed and ignored. Here's the part that makes me so angry. I don't remember taking a depression screening after my first of all, at my 6-week appointment. I don't think they had me screened for depression whatsoever. And then after my second born, I went in for my 6 week and they gave me a sheet of paper to fill out. I can't remember if it was just 1 page or 2. And as I filled it out, it was all about, I can't remember what was on the page, but I remember checking everything off. I have this, I have this, I have this, seeing the score at the end. I was severely depressed. Gave it back to the nurse to give to the doctor, figuring I'd get a call back with answers and treatment options or some kind of advice at least. And I never heard anything about it after that. I didn't know why we even did the screening in the first place, especially marked severely depressed. There was zero follow up. And that happens a lot. Moms go in, they're probably feeling that depression and anxiety. They may be screened and they may not, and there's still zero follow up. So I had to take matters into my own hands, but it took, like I said, another 4 months before I realized how bad it was and had to go and ask for my own antidepressants, my own medication, and then realized that that wasn't working and had to go in for more testing. And all this research I did through ChatGPT. The doctors didn't really do anything for me. So I had to be my own advocate at that point when healthcare had failed me. So another mom said that not getting enough sleep can drive you deeper into depression. And this is very true. A lot of moms are extremely sleep deprived. And that part is inevitable, being sleep deprived. But if you have a partner that can help, a family member that can help, there's ways to recover your sleep. I remember just being tired. I didn't sleep when baby slept, and I didn't take care of myself as well as I should have. Back to the depressional screening. If you do feel dismissed, and there's just a good chance that you might, then keep talking. Reach out to your OB, a primary care doctor, a therapist, a trusted person. And if something feels wrong, that's definitely enough to ask for help. You don't want to be stuck in a spiral going down. Back to sleep deprivation and survival mode. Sleep deprivation, it worsens your anxiety, depression, and emotional regulation, among many other things. Sleep deprivation isn't a personal failure, it's just biology. Us as humans, we need sleep. So for me, what helped with my second born was that my husband, first week, he took off work and he was on nighttime duty. We used a bottle for her so my husband could just feed her at night. And I would average about 8 hours of sleep the entire first week of recovery. So that helped me recover a lot faster. And then after that, I would take the baby for 4 nights a week because he worked, and then he would take her the other 3 days. On top of that, my mom was working nights at the time, and she would take my oldest daughter in the morning, get her ready for the day, and get her breakfast while I slept in and took care of the baby. So all of that really led to my success in terms of sleep. That was vital for my recovery. What advice felt unrealistic or unhelpful? Like I said, when people say sleep when baby sleeps, that's all fine and dandy if you have one kid. But if you have multiple kids, that is a lot harder than you think. Especially because I had a 3.5-year-old when my baby was born. She wasn't taking naps anymore. And that's kind of it that I can think of. You don't need perfect sleep, but you do need protected sleep. So even if you can get 3 to 4 hour stretch of protected deep sleep, that is really, really good. And then if you can feed your baby, put them back to sleep, try to get another good stretch. Also, I feel like, I don't know who told me this, but they'd say, make sure you wake up your baby every 2 hours. I never did that. I just wake up when baby wakes up, and it could be 2 hours, could be 4 hours, could be more. So they know when they're hungry, they can wake up on their own. Don't wake up your baby. I would not. So let's talk about the physical changes and identity shock. Here are some responses I got from moms about this. One mom said that losing her hair shattered her confidence and that grief matters. I can attest to this. Like I said, I have a lot of hair. So when I told my husband that I was losing hair and in chunks and locks, he kind of laughed it off because I have so much hair and it didn't look like it. But I know myself, when I shower, there was definitely 3 to 4 times the amount of hair that was falling out, and I knew that wasn't normal. Another talked about the pain of mastitis and the heartbreak of feeding struggles. This is not talked about enough because feeding struggles is probably one of the most common issues. And I was actually at a girls' craft night the other night, and there was 9 moms there chatting and talking about their birth experience. Someone's about to have their second baby, so they're all talking about their firstborns and what it was like after birth. And they just remember the lactation specialist coming in, and honestly, a lot of them are extremely rude. They shame you for not knowing how to feed your baby, and this is just some experiences that I've heard and have experienced, especially the lactation specialist that came in to see me. She acted super nice until I was like, well, what if I want to formula feed? Then they start getting extremely angry and rude and yelling in your face and telling you that you're a bad mom. So if you're a lactation specialist, then don't be rude to new moms. Let them fed is best, right? So that is what we were talking about. And my mom, she nursed 3 out of 4 kids, I think. And I can't remember the reason why one of us wasn't. And maybe I'm wrong. I should ask her. But anyways, I just know that each baby is also different, and it's a struggle. It's also sometimes humiliating. It's also very vulnerable, and it's actually sometimes super out of mom's comfort zone to do it for the first time or even the second, third, fourth time. So we really should be more gentle with ourselves, and people should be more gentle with us. Some moms don't feel a bond right away, and that doesn't mean you're a bad mother. Someone said that they regret that things didn't go the way that they planned, but that can still coexist with gratitude. Life doesn't go as planned anyways. So it's just something to have in the back of your mind and expect, and hopefully be able to go with the flow. And I know that's easier said than done, especially I'm a type A person. I love plans and routines. So for me, that's something I had to learn, was having a plan B, C, D, all the way to Z, because a lot of the times it does not go as planned. So you can love your baby and grieve yourself at the same time. You can be sad about how you've changed, who you've become, things like that. And obviously, you can still love your children, but we lose ourselves in the process. And that's something that a lot of people don't understand. It's not something that we want to do. We don't want to lose ourselves and say goodbye to the person that we were, being able to move better and not be so sore in some places, not having the extra flab around us. There's so many things that change, and so quickly. Postpartum isn't weakness, it's transition, and transitions are hard. There is a light at the end of this, even if you can't see it. Next episode, we're talking about why postpartum often breaks relationships. the mental load of it all, the resentment, and how partners can actually show up. If this episode made you feel less alone, that does matter, and I hope you stick around for more. No Textbook for Life will be live every Wednesday morning. And if you want the video version, you can go to Modern American Mama and watch the video version. Thanks for joining, and we'll see you next week.